The early hours of April 1, 2006 were shrouded in mystery. The clock ticked past midnight in Columbus, Ohio, and the air hung heavy with the promise of spring. But for one family, the dawn of a new season would bring an icy dread that would linger for years to come. Brian Schaffer, a promising young medical student, had vanished. He was last seen at a bar near the Ohio State University campus, swallowed whole by the night. The door had closed behind him, the cameras had blinked, and then, nothing. Brian Schaffer was gone. His disappearance, as swift as it was baffling, would become a chilling enigma, a story whispered in hushed tones and debated endlessly in online forums. How could a young man, on the cusp of a bright future, simply disappear? The answer, elusive and painful, remains locked in the heart of a mystery that has haunted investigators and captivated the nation for nearly 2 decades. Brian Schaffer's story is a chilling reminder that sometimes the most unsettling mysteries are those that hit closest to home. Brian Schaffer wasn't just a face on a missing person poster, he was a son, a brother, a boyfriend, a friend. Born in 1979, Brian grew up in the tranquil suburb of Pickerington, Ohio, a place where dreams took root and life unfolded at a gentler pace. He excelled in academics, his sharp mind navigating complex scientific concepts with ease. He was a natural athlete, his tall frame a familiar sight on the tennis court, where his skill and determination had earned him the captaincy of his high school team. But Brian's true passion lay in the world of medicine. Inspired by the doctors who had cared for his mother during her battle with a rare bone marrow cancer, he had set his sights on becoming a physician, eager to dedicate his life to healing others. He had already earned a Bachelor of Science in microbiology and was working as a radiology tech assistant, his days spent amidst the whirring machines and hushed corridors of the Ohio State University Hospital. He was a young man driven by purpose, on the brink of a future filled with promise. The final days of March 2006 had been bittersweet for Brian. The sting of his mother's recent passing lingered, a dull ache in his heart. Yet he found solace in the love of his girlfriend Alexis, a radiant young woman who had captured his heart. They had shared dreams of a future together, whispering of exotic vacations and a lifetime of shared adventures. Spring break was just around the corner, a much-needed escape from the pressures of medical school. Brian had planned a romantic getaway to Miami with Alexis, a trip made even more special by the fact that it had been a gift from his late mother. On the evening of Friday, March 31st, the eve of his disappearance, Brian met his father, Randy, for dinner at a local Outback steakhouse. It was a chance to connect, to share stories and laughter, to savor the comfort of family. Later that night, the allure of a carefree evening with friends proved too tempting to resist. Brian headed to the Ugly Tuna Saloon, a popular bar near campus, eager to unwind and embrace the weekend. The Ugly Tuna Saloon pulsed with the energy of a Friday night. Music throbbed, laughter echoed, and the air crackled with the anticipation of a night unbounded. Brian, accompanied by his friend and former dorm mate, William Clint Florence, navigated the crowded bar, their voices mingling with the din. The hours melted away in a haze of shared drinks and easy conversation. They were joined by another friend, Meredith Reed, and the trio settled into the familiar rhythm of a night out. At 1:15 a.m., security cameras captured Brian, Clint, and Meredith returning to the bar after a brief interlude. The footage showed Brian engaged in conversation with 2 young women outside the bar, his smile hinting at a carefree spirit. Minutes later, at 1:55 a.m., the cameras caught their last glimpse of Brian. He appeared to be re-entering the bar, his back to the lens, his figure swallowed by the throng of revelers. It was a fleeting moment captured on grainy footage, but it would become a haunting image, the last known sighting of Brian Schaffer. Section 5. A Family's Nightmare. The first tendrils of worry crept in when Brian didn't answer his phone. His girlfriend Alexis tried calling him repeatedly, her heart pounding with a growing unease. It wasn't like Brian to disappear, to leave her hanging, especially not with their trip to Miami just days away. As the hours stretched into an agonizing silence, A chilling realization began to dawn. Something was terribly wrong. Brian's father, Randy, received the news of his son's disappearance with a stoic disbelief that quickly crumbled into a parent's worst nightmare. The weight of the unknown pressed down on him, each unanswered question a fresh wound. The family clung to each other, their shared grief a tangible presence in the air. Hope, fragile and flickering, was all they had left. Section 6. The Investigation. The disappearance of Brian Schaefer sent shockwaves through Columbus, Ohio. The case, as perplexing as it was tragic, quickly gained national attention. Detectives descended upon the ugly tuna saloona, their every move scrutinized by a public hungry for answers. Security footage was meticulously reviewed, witness statements were taken, and every nook and cranny of the bar was searched. But the investigation seemed to hit one dead end after another. The bar's layout, with its multiple entrances and exits, made it difficult to track Brian's movements with certainty. There was a service freight elevator devoid of surveillance cameras that offered a potential escape route, but no concrete evidence linked Brian to it. The investigation, hampered by a lack of physical evidence and a frustrating absence of leads, seemed to be going nowhere fast. Section 7. Theories and Speculation. In the absence of concrete answers, theories about Brian Schaefer's disappearance ran rampant. Some whispered of a planned disappearance, speculating that Brian, perhaps overwhelmed by grief or facing unknown personal demons, had chosen to vanish, to erase his former life and start anew. Others pointed to the possibility of suicide, their voices tinged with sadness, wondering if the weight of his mother's death had proven too heavy to bear. Foul play, a sinister possibility that sent shivers down the spines of those who knew Brian, was also considered. Had he encountered someone with ill intentions that night? Had he been the victim of a random act of violence? The questions lingered unanswered, fueling a growing sense of unease. And then there was the theory of an accidental death, a tragic mishap that had somehow been overlooked. Had Brian, disoriented after a night of drinking, fallen victim to a fatal accident? The lack of a body only deepened the mystery. Section 8. A Long Shadow. Years turned into a decade, and still, the mystery of Brian Schaefer's disappearance remained unsolved. His family, forever haunted by his absence, clung to hope, their determination to find answers unwavering. The case, a chilling reminder of the fragility of life, continued to captivate the public imagination. Amateur sleuths pored over the details, searching for clues, desperate to unravel the enigma that had stumped seasoned investigators. The ugly tuna saloona, once a place of revelry, became a somber landmark, forever linked to Brian's disappearance. The case, featured on numerous true crime shows and podcasts, refused to fade from public consciousness. Brian's story, a stark reminder that sometimes, even in the age of technology and constant surveillance, people can vanish without a trace, became a cautionary tale, a modern-day ghost story whispered around campfires and debated in hushed tones. Section 9. Unanswered Questions. Today, the disappearance of Brian Schaefer remains an open wound, a haunting reminder that some mysteries may never be solved. The lack of closure, the absence of a definitive answer, is a heavy burden for his loved ones to bear. But amidst the grief and the unanswered questions, there is a glimmer of hope. Perhaps one day a new lead will emerge, a piece of the puzzle that has been missing all these years. Perhaps someone, somewhere, holds the key to unlocking the truth of what happened to Brian Schaefer on that fateful night in April 2006. Until then, his story serves as a poignant reminder of the preciousness of life, the importance of cherishing every moment, and the enduring power of hope, even in the face of unimaginable loss.